It may surprise you to learn that anyone, including you, can be the best cyclist ever. And today, I'm going to tell you how. Depending on who you ask, arguably today, the best cyclists in the world are going to be people like leonardmlee or Tadej Pogačar. In fact, Tadej Pogačar has just won the Tour de France, so that's the toughest bike race, the most famous bike race in the world. So if he's won that, then he has to be the best cyclist in the world, right? Well, even that's up for debate. Yes, he's just won the Tour de France, which kind of proves he's a general good, all-round, fast, strong cyclist. But again, depending on who you ask, some people might say, well, it's Remco Evenepoel because he was such a fighter. It was Mark Cavendish because he got 35 stage wins in the Tour de France. And some people might even say people like Eddy Merckx because, you know, he was just absolutely fantastic. So it really does depend on who you ask. It's like asking somebody who's the best singer. If you were to ask some teenage girl, she might say Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa, two very different singers. But then if you were to ask someone like me, well, I would actually say, yeah, Liz Fraser from the Cocteau Twins, or possibly even Kate Bush. Again, you know, that teenage girl who liked Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa has probably never heard of those two. To be the best at something obviously depends on your definition of the word best. And I know that may sound a little bit like a word game, but it isn't really. So if you were to ask Billy Big Bollocks who the best cyclist is, I'm sure they would say somebody that goes out, smashes enormous amounts of watts, really hurts themselves, wins races, climbs the highest and steepest mountains, etc. But for me, my definition of the word best is a little bit more modest. Professional cyclists I admire are people like Jens Voigt for just getting on there, being consistent, being tenacious and just tapping away at it. Or people like Mark Cavendish who kind of really believed in himself even though everybody didn't, and then he went on to win 35 stage wins of the Tour de France. Or somebody like British Paralympic cyclist David Stone, who went to his first ever bike race in the pouring rain, came dead last, but he stuck at it and he won a couple of gold medals at the Paralympics. And then even on a more mundane level, there are cyclists who are local to me. I'm not going to embarrass them by mentioning them by name because they probably watch these vlogs, but they know who they are. They're the people that are consistently going out on their bikes in all sorts of weather and just really enjoying their rides. And then of course there's me. I'm undoubtedly the best cyclist living in my house. There are only two of us and the other one doesn't ride a bike. So speaking of people living in my house, you may be wondering why I'm out today on such a miserable, drizzly, overcast day. Surprisingly, it's not to kind of push myself and get ahead of my training or anything like that. There is an element of me wanting to go out and just prove something to myself that I can do it, but if I'm brutally honest, the main reason I'm out today is because Diana, my other half, who's a teacher, is on the first day of the school summer holidays, and usually she's in the house tidying up, doing all sorts of stuff like that, and I thought I'd better make myself scarce before she found some tidying up job for me to do. Being the best is basically what you want it to be. It could even just be a question of being the best you can at something. So yeah, if you are one of these people that wants to go out, smash the watts, push themselves to the limit, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that does get a little bit harder the heavier and the older you get. I think it's going to be very difficult to beat people like Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard, and you might end up being disappointed, but you know, as long as you've kind of showed up and you can look yourself in the eye and say, yep, I did my best, then yeah, absolutely fantastic. But equally, if your idea of the word best doesn't involve living in a world of pain, well, that's fantastic too. And the great thing about you deciding what the best is and isn't is that nobody can say that you're wrong. They can argue their point, but at the end of the day, if you don't agree with them, they're not right. There we go, that's today's ride done and dusted. Me home, 27 kilometers and about 300 meters in the bank of fitness. Not the longest of rides, but most importantly, let's hope I've managed to avoid the worst of all of the tidying up jobs. Wish me luck.